Alright guys, TechRabbit here again, and today I want to discuss the 2K that happened last night. It was a really interesting finale we had in the North American and European 2Ks, the first one of the Black Ops 4 season, and we had crazy viewers first of all. So OpTic Gaming won the 2K, they didn't drop a map over the tournament. 27 maps they won to 0 losses over the entirety of the 2K, over the Sunday and then the Monday when the semis or the quarters, the semis and finals were done in North America and just the semis and finals in Europe. So crazy situation is that Scump had 100,000 viewers at one point on his live stream for a tournament which each of these guys won $400 at the end of the day, as you can see the prize pool here on coggamepedia.com. Yes, Ninja did host the stream, but he was already hitting like upwards of 80,000 viewers before Ninja even hosted to put him over the 100,000 mark. So a crazy situation for Call of Duty, and it really does bode well. Yes, I may have my qualms about the game, you could say, but there's definitely nothing to say that people aren't interested and hyped about watching this gameplay from a competitive standpoint, because Scump's stream was popping. There were so many other streams doing really well. Even for the final of the European 2K, Quicker had several hundred viewers, and you know, he didn't even have a face cam, and he's hardly the most well-known pro in the scene. So a lot of controversy to talk about as well, especially in the European situation. Also in the North American, the OpTic versus eUnited matchup was very spicy indeed. We're going to go through all of that stuff, starting with APAC. So like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. And let's see what happened here. Amazingly, Mindfreak didn't win the APAC 2K. I believe this concluded on Sunday morning or something like that, so a little bit earlier than the other ones, but Mindfreak, I guess, to some extent have an excuse in that I believe most of their players were at Naked's wedding. So Naked, like a former Mindfreak player, I think he runs the org or owner of the organization, or definitely a high up position within Mindfreak, I believe, and he had a wedding, so I believe they're a little bit hungover to some extent. They ended up coming second in the 2K, but I must stress that this 2K doesn't really mean much. It's not like at the start of the World War II season, where you saw FaZe, they had a couple of bad results in the 2Ks, they got a tough draw in the later 2Ks that happened down the road, and then they had a really bad seed, and they had to go through open bracket at Vegas, or, sorry, at Dallas, that's right, Vegas would be this year, and they ended up coming top 4 all the way out the open bracket. To some extent, that's a little bit of an advantage. You get a lot more time to practice playing on LAN, but obviously a big risk involved as well. So this year, it's not the same. Getting into pools or getting into the pool play playoffs goes just through the pro points you had from the World War II season. So this isn't going to benefit Tainted Minds to any real degree, apart from seeding for further tournaments down the line, getting higher seeds in open bracket, etc. And also, potentially, you could see the pro points coming in handy all the way down the line at the last chance qualifier, when you've got to qualify for that, assuming that's how the system works this year for champs. So the pro points will be a factor down the line, but such a negligible difference like 800 really doesn't matter. For a lot of these guys, it's just about the practice and the experience and getting good competitive practice in all the modes against the other top teams. So Tainted Minds win APAC, Mindfreak comes second. Bit of a shock result, but Tainted Minds honestly looking really solid. This Luca guy seems to have great talent, but really needs to be taught how to play Respawn by the rest of the guys in his team, because he was over challenging things left, right and center, and such a team-based gameplay, Black Ops 3, that, you know, that's not going to cut it. So let's go on to Europe. This had the most surprising results. Red Reserve and Reciprocity, the two big names you'd expect them to make the final, they only made top 8. The top 4 teams, if you guys aren't really too tuned in with European Call of Duty, you may not have heard of these guys, but Europe is known for having a certain portion of online gods. And Red Reserve and Reciprocity, of course, you'd still expect them to do really well on LAN. And as I say, this tournament didn't really mean the most. There's not too much incentive to go really hard. But at the end of the day, they did lose fair and square. So Quicker's team ended up winning it. Quicker, Nolson, Weeman, Nevo, and Dylan. So it's an interesting situation. Nevo got dropped from Reedy's team in place of then Cammy went on the team. And now Moose is on the team. Moose actually came off Quicker's team to begin with, because that was the Team Sweden squad from Champs, where they managed to get out of pools and they beat eUnited and Splice right in pools. Now they have Dylan, who I see as a really promising young talent. Nolson and Quicker are on the Hyper Games team that did really well in Black Ops 3. Brain from that squad is also down here in second place. They were known as the online superstars, and it's no surprise, joined by Kreza as well, another guy who's known for his online capabilities. And I really hope they'll do something on LAN this year, because seems to me a lot of these European teams, they make a show at the start of the year, they put on a clinic, they do really well online, and then when it goes to LAN, things don't quite go to plan. The quickest team honestly looked phenomenal. When I was watching the end of this 2K, the communication was excellent. It was like they had 4 guys on the map, very calm, very condensed, always communicating the right things. And there was a bit of drama between these guys and Mad Cat's team down here under no organisation. So the 3 favourites, you could say, Mad Cat's team, Rated's Red Reserve and Reciprocity, they all finished in the top 8. So let's have a look how these matches went down a little bit lower down. Red ended up losing to Pick Us Up Please, which was Krezza and Brain Squad. And then Reciprocity lost to Sunny B, actually, yeah. So this was quite an interesting situation, how Maple and Chain from the Vitality crew that Tommy took to top 16 or top 12 at Champs, they actually outplaced him and beat him here, and Maple had a crazy 3-piece with the sniper to close out the S&D and put the series almost beyond reach. So that was another interesting storyline, but, you know, a really weird situation we have here in Europe where definitely not the most expected teams coming out in top 4. However, I do rate a lot of these guys, and I think they have a great chance of making Pro League and making some upsets in the North American side of things. I was definitely impressed by what I saw here. The major drama came with Mad Cat versus the eventual winners in Quickest team. So their series in the quarterfinals went all the way to a game 5, and Mad Cat's team were 5-4 up. Then Dave earned a lightning strike. Now in this tournament, streaks were banned because I've talked in the past about how there are a lot of problems with Search and Destroy as it currently stands, and one of them is that after you die, if you happen to change a class or there's other various glitches, you will continue your streak progression through death. So score streaks had to be banned. I believe this streak from Dave was a legitimate one, but, you know, the rules say that they were banned in this tournament. He called it in, he pinged it so they knew where they were, and Quickest team decided, okay, we're not going to forfeit you the map, but we're going to forfeit you that round. So, that, you know, I think they won 6-4, and then they had to restart at 5-5, and they just played one round to decide the winner, and Quickest team ended up beating them and going on to win the tournament. So there was some spicy reaction here on the timeline. This is an article from everyone's favourite journalist, Matt Porter. And yeah, they had some questions, and I'm definitely going to make a follow-up video on this topic because it seems really petty what's going on here. I'm seeing things on the timeline about, like, blacklisting these guys from scrims and stuff. So Dave ends up calling in the streak. Mad Cat says this about Dylan Cod. For some reason, they're targeting Dylan Cod. Not exactly sure why, because Dylan then confirmed, or not necessarily confirmed, but he expanded on Reddit to say that everyone on his team decided that that's the way they wanted to do it. They only took one round at the end of the day. And, you know, Josh wasn't exactly particularly kind to Dylan. So that was a bit of controversy. And we got even more of it going into the North American 2K. So let's get on to that. OpTic Gaming win the first 2K of the season. Scump, Crimsix, Kamadashi, TJ. Second place team is Spacely's squad. Now, 3 of these guys came top 8 at Champs. So Spacely, Maniac, and I believe Morks were on the Elevate team that came top 8 at Champs. They effectively knocked out Luminosity, or they knocked Luminosity down to the losers bracket in that tournament. Now joined by Nagafen and Havoc, who have looked superb. Now, it's like, it's some sort of revival has taken place, because these guys have pretty much been nowhere the last 2 years, and then snap of your fingers, and they're back to Black Ops 3 form, it seems. So maybe these are real Treyarch kids, and they've shown superb form, a lot better than what people were expecting. Another kind of surprise was 100 Thieves. People say they look awful in scrims, but now in the 2K they actually did really well and surprised a lot of people to come top 4. United as well was expected to finish in the top 4 positions here. It looked really strong on scrims. G2 had been getting destroyed in practice this week, just getting blown off the map, like 50-point club, 20-point club, and then they come top 8. Very respectable performance from them. Splice as well, I somewhat expected them to be up and around the mix because I see a lot of talent on that team. And then the rest of these guys are somewhat questionable. We did have a lot of early upsets here. So Envy actually lost to this basically randoms. Envy came top 32, and they were considered to be OpTic's maybe best challenger coming into this 2K. FaZe went out relatively early as well, top 16. And then you also had EG, who went out at top 32 as well, who I really don't rate. You know, obviously you can't tell much from a 2K, but I said that G2 would be better than EG, and you know, it seems that way so far. LG got knocked out at top 16 as well. Bit of a surprising result for them, but you know, it's online stuff. You can't really read too much into it. But what I really was impressed about is OpTic going 27-0, as I say. You can't tell too much from this tournament. OpTic have always dominated the early online season. They did it in World War II, and we saw how that turned out. And, you know, they've done it in Infinite Warfare as well. And They were obviously doing well on LAN as well, but their online play has always been spectacular, and they do have the quad Texas host of Scump, Crim, and Karma potentially being joined by Dashi and TJ in the near future. So obviously that's something of a caveat. But when you don't lose a single map, like, that's unprecedented stuff, especially as I see it with the control game mode as it currently is. It's so defense favored on many maps that often between two very even teams, it's super difficult to even win a single offense. And whoever has defense first will get it last as well, because the game's basically broken right now. I did a video with ton on that, and surely you would expect to lose at least one control, but OpTic, it turns out, didn't lose any at all. I think a large part of this is that this team is very slay heavy, and a lot of the game modes we have right now are to some extent glorified TDM. There's a lot of team stacks, there's a lot of trading. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it definitely favours OpTic. So, I talked about earlier this week the rivalries between OpTic and E-United that we saw during the Halloween thing with the little tweets and the exchange of words between Scump, Clayster and the E-United org. So we knew this was going to be a spicy match, and I believe that actually played into the outcome we saw here. So, OpTic were playing Control versus E-United. They were down 2-1 on the round count. They were already up 2-0 in the series, I believe, at this point. And some, OpTic fan or something like that, he joins E-United's team. I didn't get to watch this because I was asleep at the time, but apparently he joined E-United's team. Something happened, maybe he was shooting them or some situation went down, and they effectively had to end the map because they had some imposter on their team that was disrupting the competitive play. Now, supposedly OpTic were up 14-7 in kill count at this point, so it was basically going to go to 2-2 to a final round. But this situation forced a full replay, which OpTic Gaming ended up winning and taking the 3-0. Even more interesting, I believe it was earlier in this series. It may have been another series, but I'm pretty sure it was this series. They played a hardpoint. E-United, it was a crazy hardpoint. E-United were up like 238 to 213 or something like that. And then RCT started lagging. Rumours are that, he was getting booted off. And he starts lagging around. And by the time that OpTic have nearly closed the gap on the score, he effectively lags out of the game. So OpTic end up coming back and they take the victory. And then E-United want to replay because, to some extent it makes sense considering he lagged out. They were in advantage for the game. And you can't really expect E-United to end it in that situation, right? Like, their teammate lags out. You want them to end it up 238 to 230 or something like that. Like, it's a super intense game. Everyone enjoys the competitive moments. They're not exactly going to end it and then OpTic might say, well, you ended the map. That's against the GB rules. We want to take the victory. So supposedly OpTic were going to consider giving E-United a replay in this scenario. But I saw Dashi said something about, like, your org costed you this one. As if, like, because of the shit talk that E-United were doing to OpTic on Halloween, they were less inclined to give these guys a replay. And also apparently the E-United players maybe were talking shit or something like that. I've heard a couple of different things, but E-United, they didn't get given the replay of OpTic. OpTic took the map even though RCT's lagged out, so definitely a spicy rivalry to consider as we go forward. Of course, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but at least that maybe would have been a map that E-United won that OpTic lost, but, they keep their 27-0, I guess. And that's pretty much all there is to discuss for today, so like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. What do you think about this result? What are your expectations for OpTic Gaming going forwards? Of course, they win the 2K, pretty dominant fashion. Other teams look very strong. Spacely's especially, 100 Thieves better than expected. This really nice rivalry we're getting with E-United, more in terms of the organisation than just the players, but definitely something to keep an eye on down the line. OpTic have dominated early online stuff for several years in a row now. Will this year be any different to World War II when they can actually convert these into LAN results? I would say to OpTic fans out there, and I'm sure there are many of you, don't get ahead of yourself on this result. Of course, your team's looking amazing, but you'd have said exactly the same thing to me in World War II when you were winning all the online tournaments and dominating people in scrims. So I wouldn't be too over the moon just yet. But thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.